Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on July the 3rd, 2025. I'm your host, gaming psychologist, and with me, as always, lamenting an earlier, simpler time in life.
Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we're going to be doing our June Game Club, which is Grand Theft Auto 5. We're going to be telling you the next Game Club game, and we're going to talk a little bit about online piracy's great comeback. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rach.
Hello.
How goes it this week?
It goes. I'm present, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm there with you. There's a lot of stuff going on. So many things in the world, in my personal life, probably yours too.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh my goodness.
Me, it's more just work stuff. I work late tomorrow, and then I have to go in early the next day, and it's holiday weekend.
Yep. Not for me. I was off today. I am off tomorrow. Although I did a lot of work today.
Well, somehow I was actually off today, so. I don't know how.
Magic. Yeah, just straight magic. Yeah. No, I moved dirt and gravel and built things today. Like a man. Until it got way too hot. It was 90
went
degrees.
Inside like a bitch.
That's right. Bet your sweet ass I did. It was glorious to go inside. Take a shower. Take a nap. Still pretty tired though. But yeah, it was 90 degrees at noon today, and the temperature rose. I think the high today got up to 97. I don't know. Already had to deal with a broken air conditioner, and now I have a breaker that keeps tripping. For another part of the house. So gotta deal with that. Just so many things. Anyways, y'all aren't here to listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
You're here to listen to us talk about games, right?
Oh, hopefully.
A game in particular, Grand Theft Auto 5. So Game Club is if you somehow happen to be new here to this, hello. We're not sorry, but you may regret it. But Game Club is a time where we set aside to play the same game at the same time on purpose, and then we talk about it. So this time, we played Grand Theft Auto 5, and boy howdy, do we have some thoughts on this.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say on this beloved game by many, which neither of us beloved, although I feel like, based on our preliminary conversation, I like it more than you do.
Yeah, it's showing its age. How about that?
Which is interesting.
GTA 5 is what, 12, 13 years old now?
I think it originally released in 2012 or 2013, which, yes, would put it at 12 or 13 years. Release date. Let's just double check that. GTA 5 original.
I was trying to check it, and then because I haven't had my main computer on in a while, everything's updating, and Firefox is like, "Hey, AdBlock Plus just updated. Here, let's have a pop-up about it."
Yeah, it originally released on September the 17th, 2013. It has had multiple releases because it's gone through several different revamps and remasters and whatevers. And then some of the multiplayer stuff counts as a release, according to them.
Yeah, the setting is so old that's actually relevant again that there's another housing crisis.
Yes.
Because that's
indeed.
one of the big thing is that everybody's losing their homes, the economy's in the shitter, and
Oh God, we'll get to the radio shit at some point.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm not sure if it's me or if it's just aged poorly, but I had to turn it off because it started to get a little too close to home.
Oh, yes. I also now default to turning the radio off
Or
or
just
just
turning
kind
to
of,
music.
yeah, turning to music. In the GTAs of old, I always listened to the talk radio,
Yeah, and loved it, but
and loved
it,
it. Yeah.
and I'm not sure if it's just aged poorly, if it's the fact that we now live in the current year where the satire of then
Is
seems
what's really
tame,
happening now.
or seems tame compared to what we're dealing with leading news.
Yeah. So no, I'm with you. Like I listened to it for a little while and I was like, no, I can't. I play video games to escape from reality, not have it be reality.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, the
So,
GTA talk radio, especially like Weasel News, seems tame compared to what Fox does these days.
dude. Yeah. And then like the weird like jokey like grifters like the yoga guy
Mm-hmm.
and the supplement guy and then the supplement lady like the woo woo like and yeah, that's just real. That's just what we live in now. Like those people have always existed, right? But they used to be on the fringe of society or at least societal acceptance. And now mainstream, baby. Let's go. All you got to do is take these supplements and you will be fine. I don't know if there's anything in there that has to do with pandemics. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not something buried in there somewhere about, the CDC or the WHO or some kind of disease somewhere. Because wasn't this like right around Ebola time?
I think so, actually. Yeah.
Miss those days. That's something I never thought
Although
I'd say.
Ebola may have been too recent to get into the writing phase.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not sure though. But regardless, like we haven't even like start talking about anything. We can focus on the radio shit that's too real because the world is too stupid now. Or at least on its face. But anyways, so GTA 5. I guess in case you somehow don't know what Grand Theft Auto is, Grand Theft Auto is a long-running series that has evolved pretty significantly from a game where you're just like some guy stealing cars and doing crimes in a top-down view to a very deep, intricate, mostly third person, although you can play the game in first person, game about...
Or at least one, this re-release. I think it was added to the PC version.
Yeah.
So technically, this is the what I was playing was the enhanced version.
I was too.
Okay. Which runs a bit better, but has some things taken out, like multiplayer for me.
Yeah. But I mean, Grand Theft Auto has become this like weirdly serious game that also is like crazy and weird and tongue-in-cheek. Grand Theft Auto is its own thing. I don't think there's anything that you can point to and say Grand Theft Auto is like that. It's just a super satirized version of reality. Because where this Grand Theft Auto takes place is in a satirized version of California. Grand Theft Auto 4 was in a satirized version of New York City. Grand Theft Auto Vice City was in a satirized version of Miami, Florida. I'm not sure where GTA 3 takes place, but...
GTA 3 takes place in Liberty City, which is satirized New York.
New York, yeah. But so...
it's the same city as GTA 4.
Yeah. So it's a thing. And I say that just because it's hard to describe if you don't know what it is, GTA is its own thing, and it has spawned kind of some knockoff type games. Although the only one that I think was ever like really successful was Saints Row, and then Saints Row
Watch Dogs. I would say it's become a cult hit.
Okay, I don't think of Watch Dogs like Grand Theft Auto, but there's a shitload of similarities now that
that's
kind of call it out.
Is that there's Watch Dogs you could also consider? I mean, that's had 3-4 games.
Yeah.
One
at
of the
least
last
3.
The Driver series, especially towards the end of that one, became very GTA-esque.
Okay, I didn't realize that. I've only ever played the original Driver.
Did you at least get past the tutorial?
I did.
That's one that's infamous for being
Notorious, yeah.
yeah.
Because it's like it's like got a bug or something, right?
Oh no, it's basically, from what I understand, uh, it back in the day, there was essentially anti-rental things where you would have to have the manual to understand certain things,
Yeah.
or they just make games brutally difficult. And for whatever reason, the original driver has one of these where you're put in a garage, a parking garage, and you have to perform, was it 8 or 10 essentially maneuvers or stunts within
Yeah.
like a 3-minute time frame, and if you don't, you don't pass the tutorial and you can't essentially play the game.
Yep.
And each maneuver has a video that shows what to do, but you have to chain all 10 together, and it's a pretty tight time frame. And I'm not sure if it's because of an anti-rental thing, if it's just it was a holdover from when the game was a lot more focused on like more like almost stunt driving or what. But there's a lot of stuff that in that tutorial that you don't really need in the main game.
Yeah. So back to GTA though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to make a lot of comparisons.
Grand Theft Auto 5 is like the most ambitious one so far. To my knowledge, all prior Grand Theft Auto games focused on one protagonist and his story. I think they've all been men.
Very. You could make the argument with GTA San Andreas that it was about, the Greenwood, the Grove Street families, or the Grove Street family, where, it's essentially that group. But this is really the first time that you had multiple protagonists, and it feels like they did one too many.
Yeah, so Grand Theft the protagonist lineup for Grand Theft Auto 5 is Franklin, who feels like the San Andreas, which I mean like it is.
CJ.
He's like CJ,
which not
it
just
is
because he's black. It's because he's someone that's being drawn into this crazy world, mostly against his will.
He's the youngest. He's a millennial. He was born in, I think, 1988. Like his license plate has got his birth year on it. So he's young. He's grown up in this LA style gang culture. He's trying to break out of that and get into something bigger. Then there is Michael, who feels very much like the classic Grand Theft Auto protagonist.
Basically, I view the three of them as almost analogs from earlier GTA games, which might be what they were going for. He feels very much like
Michael
Tommy Vercetti, where he's has anger issues that gets him into trouble. He's been in the game for a long time. Got out. Tommy Vercetti got out because he was in prison and then essentially forced back in. Michael got back in because he's a fucking idiot and got angry and pulled a house off the side of a mountain. And then you have Trevor. Trevor is essentially Claude. Claude never really had much of a character outside of what was assigned to him by players. And Trevor very, very much feels like the same archetype where he's just a psychopath. And with, haha dirty humor that was popped up from time to time in the GTA 3 trilogy. I don't think it's an incident that all three of these characters are analogs from the GTA 3 trilogy. I think they view GTA 4 as a mistake almost for parts of how they handled that game. And this was essentially trying to reboot the game series again into its more like wacky form, because GTA 4 was very I shouldn't say very serious. It was more serious. It was more grounded. It was grittier. The story was more serious, and it was a departure from the GTA 3 trilogy, GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, where it was there were serious moments. There were tough moments, but there were also very wacky. There was very crazy moments. So I don't think it's an incident that we have 3 protagonists that all could be linked directly to the more popular time of GTA.
Yeah, that's fair. I didn't make that original connection. GTA 3, I have barely played. I've completed Vice City, and I did not complete, but I played quite a bit of San Andreas. But I did not. I barely played GTA 3, so I don't have the experience with Claude to have made that connection for Trevor. I have just thought of Trevor this whole time.
Claude was pretty much a blank slate, almost like the 2D GTA protagonist.
Yeah.
But he's basically all the wackiness that goes on around him has been basically assigned to him as like a personality, you know? Because Claude is pretty much a blank slate.
Yeah. That kind of makes that...
Even his appearance in GTA San Andreas, he is just, there.
Yeah. Your theory, though, actually, like, kind of groks with me in one way, because Vice City has always been my favorite Grand Theft Auto game. I don't think it's the best, but it was my favorite. And so that makes sense why I like Michael the best. Because Michael is my favorite of the 3
I like
protagonists.
Franklin.
Yeah. Like, I also like Franklin. But I hate Trevor.
Trevor feels like almost a fan idea of what what a funny GTA protagonist would have been.
Yeah.
And it just so often falls flat. It also doesn't help that he actively detracts from the story, you know?
Yeah. The interplay between these 3 main characters, the story, like, broad strokes, like, we're not going to do an entire story beat by beat. Like, there's too much, and you didn't get...
Yeah, I'm about, what?
You're about halfway through the main story. I'm a little farther than you, and I have gotten farther in a previous playthrough than I did this time. But, I have also not beaten GTA 5. I'm familiar with how it ends, because I have watched a couple of YouTube videos and stuff that talk about it. So, but like broad strokes, Michael and Trevor go back. They had, they were part of, a criminal enterprise that did, tons of jobs over the years, made a shitload of money. Michael falls in love, and in order to get out of the game, he fakes his own death. And Trevor was supposed to be arrested or killed in the process, as was his other main gang member, or crew member. But the other crew member gets killed. Trevor escapes, and then Trevor had already gone off the deep end, but it was like one more thing to push him even farther. No, Trevor is not an intelligent man.
I mean, and you also have the Fib, totally not the FBI, helping Michael essentially disappear until he blows that, and then the way they faked his death is to essentially swap the body. So the guy that died took the place of Michael at the funeral, and they've been faking letters from the state penitentiary, and Trevor's too stupid to try to go or
visit. Yeah. So
pick up the fact that this isn't right.
Yeah. So Franklin kind of accidentally stumbles onto Michael.
Yeah, he repoed the wrong bike.
Yep. So Franklin stumbles. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I was going to say he gets into this because he worked as a repo man at the very beginning of the story, and he was repoing. I think it was Michael's car.
No, it was Michael's son's car.
Michael's son's car. Yeah, that's right. Because Jimmy's also a fucking idiot. Someone else I actively dislike.
I hate Jimmy, and I can't even remember his daughter's name. And then Ashley's his wife. I hate all of them. I hate all of Michael's family.
I think that's also another failing of this game is that you always had at least some characters you're rooting for, but outside of the protagonist. But the thing is that here, Franklin he has his aunt that he lives with up until a certain point in the story, who is just crazy.
She sucks. Yeah, she's crazy.
And his gang banging buddy,
Lamar.
who also sucks.
I do like Lamar, but he does suck. He gets both of them into trouble multiple times throughout the story, mostly concentrated on the early parts of the story.
Yeah,
Lamar gets left behind at a certain point.
He has just popped back up in my gameplay.
But yeah, he gets them into trouble a bunch. But like Lamar and Franklin's dialogue,
that should give you an idea where I am. He just popped back up.
Yeah. Where you do the thing with Trevor, where you go to the house and get the brick of cocaine or whatever it is.
Yeah, you're Franklin stealing the cars.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking of the part where that Franklin and Trevor and Lamar go to some guy's house to get a brick of cocaine or something, and then Trevor is like, "No, check the other side, it's fake," and they get into that shootout in the neighborhood.
No, this is past that.
Right. Yeah, you're doing the car thefts for like the hyper rich dude.
Yeah. Although, once again, not getting money for it, which we'll get to that.
Yeah. But so, Franklin kind of stumbles into the story, but I mean, that's fine. Like, it's okay that, how he enters into the orbit. Like, it's a storytelling device. That's fine.
Which actually kind of works,
Yeah.
Michael, also, because he has anger issues, and can't keep it in his pants, and his wife can't keep out of other people's pants. Goes on a rampage and pulls a guy's house down, which gets him into big debt because it was Russian mafia or
no, he was South American, like
South
a cartel
American
guy.
Okay, I couldn't remember which one. Because I remember Russian mafia was a big one that they used to use.
Yeah.
And had to do a jewel heist, which got Trevor's attention.
Yep.
And
Trevor notices that Michael is still alive.
Trevor's like, wait a minute, this looks familiar.
Then there's we'll explain heists in a minute, but this goes through several wacky story beats where there are multiple heists that take place.
It's not even, and I think that's also another problem is that while GTA is never really known for its long overarching story, that it's like there's one major story and there's paths to get there and like story arcs. Like GTA San Andreas is a good example of this, where while it's the main story of who was driving the green Saber that killed CJ's mom, and the mystery around that. But it's a very roundabout way, and there's story arcs of the Grove Street families essentially getting defeated, the exile, the time in San Fierro, rebuilding his empire there, going to Las Venturas, and then essentially the return. And while there's long overarching story arcs, here it's like there's just the story arcs. They seem to forget everything else.
Yeah,
but and it could also be tied to where the big story arc is tied up with Michael fuck up with his family right now and trying to reconcile that, which I just really don't care.
I mean, the overall story after the setup is Michael and Franklin are going through this journey to balance what they want and need around Trevor's insanity. And there's bits and pieces that feed into that with the FIB, the not FBI and the not CIA, and some stuff connected to that. You learn more details about Michael and Trevor's past. You do several more heists. Then ultimately, Trevor does eventually find out the truth about what happened. Decides he's gonna fuck off, and then you get to make one big final decision with Franklin in the driver's seat. Franklin gets centered as the main protagonist at the very end of the game, who ultimately decides what happens. And there's three, because the FIB guy comes to Franklin as the new guy with hey, I got this problem with Michael and with Trevor. We need to handle this. Help me handle it, and I'll make it worth your while. And you can either choose to kill Michael, you can choose to kill Trevor, or you can choose to team up with Michael and Trevor to kill the FIB guy. And that solves your problem, because I don't know if you're there in the story or not. I think you are, where that you learn that the FIB guy actually like has not had Michael in witness protection, and there was like some shenaniganry going on there, so this guy could get credit for a bunch of busts based off of Michael's information. And so he wants to keep that a secret because he's got like a bigger ulterior motive going on that you learn more about a little later on. And it's like, well, if we just kill this guy, like, we'll be fine. So they kill that guy. But like, you get to be Franklin, who is in the driver's seat to make that choice. And that's it. That's the game. Like a whole bunch of like bullshit and shenaniganry, and you're supposed to just enjoy the ride along the way. It could work. There is like the basis for a really good story. Like, even though they're fucked up, this like betrayal between these two weird friends and the new kid coming in to disrupt the balance of power, the weird like G-man, like government types and shady deals, like there's a million stories that have been built on this basic idea. But this is a video game, not a movie or a book, so you have to play it. And they fuck up the pacing so bad with what you're talking about with like the story stuff. The pacing of the story is terrible. Sometimes you will go for hours with like nothing to do except a few sort of like little side missions that are at best tangentially connected to something else that happened in the main story. But you've got to do them, or I guess you could maybe just go sleep in your bed for multiple days until the next main mission pops up. But sometimes there are these other trigger conditions you have to meet.
Yeah, I was about to say that doesn't guarantee it, because there. I got to a point where I missed Lester saying, come see me before the big raid. So I was wandering around wondering, where the fuck is this heist supposed to pop up?
Yep.
You know?
Yep. And then sometimes the game will take that away from you and be like, okay, we're going to do 5 or 6 main missions in a row where you don't get to stop and take a break. And it's like, well, hang on, I don't want to, and like, you know, video games, whatever, it doesn't necessarily have to make perfect sense within like a time frame, but it's like, well, I don't feel like I can stop. I'd like to stop and go do something for a minute. You know, I finally got paid. I would like to like go buy something. I would like to go do something, but nope. Okay, well, I guess we're going to do 4 more story missions now. The worst string of that is like, you haven't gotten to in the story yet. Because you do a big bank heist, and there are several missions in a row that you have to do. And it doesn't allow you to do anything else. Like, once you do sort of the setup portion for the bank heist, then it's like setup portion, bank heist, escape. Trevor fucks something up, because of course he does. Got to go deal with that immediately. The FIB shows up. You have to deal with that immediately. Then you can finally like have a little, it's like 2 hours where you're like pushed down this path. It's just poor pacing. It's just very poor pacing.
Which I think kind of ties into my feeling that the game feels more spectacle than experience. It wants to show off so much stuff. It wants to show off these side activities and everything else. But there's really not much to do with them. Like, let's take golf, for example. Yeah, you do the 9-hole course, but you don't get anything really if you win outside of a cosmetic costume. You could go on the road racing, and the reward for that is piss poor.
Yep.
You could go do the marathons. Once again, cosmetic reward. You could go do the shooting challenges, and you get a small percentage off of the ammunition stuff.
Yep.
And there's so much to do, but you get so little out of it.
Yep. Occasionally, like, so for golfing, there's one mission that you can have, at least that I found, that's tied to golfing. Like some random guy. Okay, so there are random guys or people, like random events where you're driving around.
There's random events, and there's also the freaks and geeks.
Yes. So this was a random event. Like, I was driving around as Michael, and the thing popped up that there was like I could hear somebody shouting, and like a little thing popped up on the map that lets you know that it's like, oh, okay, there's like somebody, like your mini map. And I go over, and this guy's like shouting at his girlfriend, and he asks if you can take him to the golf club. And so I take him to the
Yeah, I
golf
did
club, and
get that.
yeah, and he's like, oh, well, I'll play with you. Well, if you show up to the golf club when he's there and play with him, there's like a little, there's just a little mission that pops up out of it. That's like you do it, and if you win the golf game, he gives you like a little reward, and then becomes available for you to call, and you can invite him to go play golf with you whenever you want. Like, it's not major, right? But like there is like a little mission structure to it. So
Even stuff like another one I'm thinking about is all the businesses. Buying them feels like a sucker's bet because it takes months and years to make back your money, assuming that you even could trigger that, because some are tied directly to like the scrapyards tied to destroying cars.
yep.
And this is a game that actively that discourages you, it feels like, to go on a rampage like that. It's not like GTA Vice City, where you could go find a rocket launcher somewhere.
Yeah. So let's talk about money. Let's talk about money in this game. For a game that has multiple multi-million-dollar heists, you get no money for so much of the game. You start out with like a very small amount of money. It varies per character. I think Michael starts with the most money. Well, technically, no, Trevor starts with the most money, technically, but you get him after your first heist. And I think it just gives him like $100,000 to kind of match a little bit what Michael and Franklin have after they complete the first heist, like something along those lines. But, you start with basically nothing. You spend a decent portion of the beginning of the game with no money. Then you do the first heist, and you don't even get that payout for a while. But it makes sense. You've got to, Lester tells you he's got to fence the jewelry. And then you finally get that money, and it's like, okay, sweet. I've got, $350,000 or $400,000. Like, the amount that you get can vary based on some things that happened during the heist. But it's like, well, what do I do with it?
And also the crew you use.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but it's like, well, then what do I do with it? Like, number one, you don't really need to spend money, but like, it's frustrating that you don't get any money because the game doesn't give you any reward in this game system that has set up like you getting rewarded for stuff. Grand Theft Auto, like, historically, like, you do a mission, you get some kind of reward, you get some kind of payout, and the money in previous games matters a lot more, it feels like. Mm-hmm. But you get so many random guns. Each character has one, like, at least one permanent vehicle that's tied to them that you always have access to. If it gets destroyed, you just go somewhere and then come back, and it will like reload at your house. So they get one permanent vehicle. Buying cars or like getting the garages to keep cars in is dubious at best because sometimes they just disappear anyways. Spending money on car customizations like is really not all that much money. And again, like, you have your one permanent car. You get so many weapons and ammo throughout the missions. There's a few drops that you can find around the map. There's a few. It's not like prior games. But, like, there's really no point in buying stuff. So, like, the only thing that you can really sink your money into is the stock market, which reacts to things that happen throughout the game and is really the only way to make serious money long term in Grand Theft Auto. There's an entire assassination mission chain tied to this idea where that Lester will have you go assassinate someone to manipulate the stock market. It's a CEO or some other like really important figure. And he tells you beforehand, like, buy this company's stock before you assassinate them. And then, after you assassinate them, you can sell the stock and then buy this other company's stock. And then when it rebounds, you can sell it. And then there's the buildings, the businesses, which almost all of them are pointless. There are a few that are worth owning from a gameplay perspective. The smoke shop makes a lot of money. And if you buy it as soon as you're able to, in the game for Franklin, like it's a Franklin exclusive building. But the smoke shop makes like $9,000 a week in game week. And even just playing normally, you will make your money back in like think it's like 18 or 19 in-game weeks, which sounds crazy, but there are multiple missions that like skip time and you get paid out during that time. Playing, time passes at a pretty quick rate. Anytime your character goes to save, you sleep unless you do like a quick save on your phone in place. But like, you go to sleep to pass time and to save your game. Within the normal course of a playthrough, you will make money on the smoke shop. Then there's the submarine thing. You can hear this on the news at the game or in the game, and certain characters reference it. But there's been like a nuclear waste spill off the coast, and so you buy this submarine, like salvage company, and you go and you recover all of the nuclear waste, and it doesn't have weekly payouts. You get paid for recovering the nuclear waste, and if you recover all of the nuclear waste, you make like $500,000 or $600,000 net profit. Everything that I've seen online says it takes about an hour to do. If you use a map to, go find them all. So that's a business that's worth money, but it is an activity you have to sink time into. And then for Franklin can buy one of the pay-in sprays, which if you do really love customizing every vehicle that you find, or if you really want to roll the dice on your vehicles not disappearing, it's like $300,000 up front to buy, but then you get free car customizations as Franklin, and like everything is free. And some of the late game or like the high level tunes and high level like enhancements to your vehicle, like bulletproof, or like armor, and some vehicles have some special things you can get. Like it varies from vehicle to vehicle. Then that can be worth it. But if you're not as much into car customization, which really you don't need to be to play the game, none of the other businesses are worth it, other than just for sort of like flavor, or if you're
a handful of missions.
Yeah, some of them do have missions that are
like
just...
the taxi company. I will say the taxi company is handy for getting across the map, because it doesn't cost anything to be able to just do the time skip.
Yeah.
But once again, it's a lot of money for a small benefit.
Yeah. So that doesn't make any sense to me. Because the whole game is about getting money. Like, I mean, that's kind of an underlying thing of all of the Grand Theft Auto games, like I said.
But usually it's the other way around, where they're talking about how broke they are, while, you have, a couple billion,
Yeah. But yeah, in GTA 5 is all about these heists. They are the high points of the game. A couple of them suck, honestly. A couple of them suck. But overall, the most fun content, in my opinion, that the game has to offer are the heists. Broadly speaking, when you're doing a heist, you get to choose what path you're going to take to do the heist. So the jewelry heist, for example...
There's usually 2, maybe 3.
Yes, 2 or 3. I don't think there's any that have more than that, but sometimes there are little sub-decisions, like, choosing your crew is important for that. Mm-hmm. There's some little Easter eggs tied to various crew members. For example, when you do the bank heist, if you have recruited, I can't remember his name, but he was in Grand Theft Auto 4, and he does the bank heist with Nico. He's on the crew doing the bank heist with Nico in Grand Theft Auto 4. You can find him, and then he's a high... Yeah, McCleary. Thank you. And if
I'm not sure which one, but I know that's the family that you went with.
Yeah. So I think it's Packy. Now that you say that, Packy McCleary. I think.
Yeah, that would be the main one.
So if you take him as your gunman on I think it's the Pellegrino bank heist, he tells, like he has some unique dialogue about the story, and because he has experience doing a bank heist that had like massive police, response. He's really helpful and provides you some extra benefits during the heist, afterwards. Because like you break into the bank, you steal all the money, and then you leave, and the cops come after you. And that one is based on the real world bank heist in the 90s in California, Beverly Hills. Yeah, where those guys showed up and they had military grade body armor, and the cops couldn't take him down. They had like AK-47s or something. This one
Yeah,
is loosely inspired by that.
Yeah, it's why SWATs became a thing, really.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
it's good to see that he got a better, I guess cameo would be the proper word here, than Johnny did, because fucking hell. The protagonist for The Lost of the Damned being killed like a punk in the very beginning of the game.
yeah. Yep. Just
That,
gets fucking murked in Trevor's introduction.
I mean, I had heard that he died in the game, but he died like a fucking punk.
Yep. Um.
And
So the heists though, there's the Jewel heist. There's the
there's
Merryweather
ones,
heist.
Right?
Yeah, I think there's 6 main ones. I guess I could just look up GTA.
Yeah, which the last 2 or 3 I've done have given me jack and shit.
Yep. Oh, oops, that's a mod.
Okay, so there's the jewel store job, which was the one that basically starts it. The Merryweather heist, which is Trevor's fuck up job.
Yep.
Blitz play, which is the FIB one that gives you absolutely nothing.
Yep, where you
that's 1/3 of the game's main attractions giving nothing.
Yep.
The Polino score, which I'm not sure gives anything.
It does. That's what I'm talking about, the bank heist.
Okay. All right. Then there's the Bureau raid and then the big score.
So the Bureau raid also doesn't give you anything. You're
so
working
half
for
half the heists give you nothing.
Yeah.
Is it just me or does that seem fucked up?
It does. It does. Because for shit, the one where you hit the armored car for the FIB, like that one, like you're taking money and you don't get any of it.
Mm-hmm.
The Merryweather heist doesn't give you anything because Trevor fucked that up and doesn't know what he's doing. The Polito score, which is the bank heist that I was talking about, the bank robbery, my take, because obviously, because of, again, different choices and crew and out whatever, like there's different amounts of money you can get. My take was 8 million, and then the FIB takes a bunch of it, but still, like each of the characters gets like $750,000 or something like that. And then the Bureau raid, you don't get anything for, or you don't get any money for. You get something out of it, but it's a story related thing. And then the big score, where you hit that's the last heist of the game. You hit like the gold depository, kind of like a Fort Knox equivalent. And that gives you millions of dollars. That gives each of your characters several $1 million. As long as you do the heist well.
And outside of that, you can go drive your taxi and get $50 per fare, or do a street race and maybe get 200.
But yeah. So the heists, you get to pick different things about them. Usually you get 2 options for how to proceed. One of them tends to be sort of a smarter approach, like a more low-key approach. They vary from heist to heist. And then the other one tends to be like, fuck it, we're going loud, just guns blazing. And then, you get to choose crew members. And then based on those crew members, different things can happen. Because if you pick shitty, bad crew, then they're bad at their jobs and it hampers you in some way. If you pick good crew, then things go, better than expected, so to speak. You can have unique dialogue for each of them based on the crew members. So they're neat, and they became like a huge focal point for GTA Online. But none of the heists from GTA Online made their way into single player. They never did anything to expand single player at all, to my knowledge. Aside from like a few little things that were added, like I think they added like a few vehicles and some other stuff other than like the graphical enhancements. But yeah, heists are like the big kind of feature. I think all of the heists are based on either famous movie heists or real world heists, or real world things that happened. I might be wrong. I didn't deeply research that, but like several of them I recognized as like, oh, this is, this thing, or this is that thing. It just sucks that half of them are pointless. Or not pointless, but half of them don't give you any kind of reward. I think you could get away with that twice. I think a Merryweather heist is a gimme because it is like a confirmation of how stupid Trevor is. Like,
or if you were able to use the sub outside of that or something,
Yeah. But so like the Merryweather heist feels like a gimme. And then you get one more. I think you could have one more heist, and it should probably be the Bureau raid, honestly. Like, again, you get something from the Bureau raid, but it is not a reward for you. It is story related, and you steal it, and you're going to do something with it. But you don't get anything out of it as a character reward. But all of the rest of the heists should give you something. Either like a good payout or some kind of unique special thing that isn't just like cosmetic, like some kind of major gameplay improvement in some way.
Mm-hmm. We haven't even mentioned each character has a superpower, by the way.
I was literally just thinking that, actually. Like, each of the characters has a superpower. Franklin's is the best. Hands down, Franklin's is the best.
Especially
power.
if you decide to go road racing.
So
he basically slows down time for everybody but him.
Franklin slows down time for everyone except him when he's driving a vehicle, like a ground vehicle, so cars, bikes, trucks. That and the handling for his vehicle increases exponentially. Like, it sticks to the ground, it turns tighter, it can get you out of all kinds of sticky situations, and it makes the races so easy. Any of the driving races, super easy. Hands down, best power. Trevor has the second best power. It's like a rage mode that makes his damage go up, which is honestly kind of pointless. But while he's raging, he either doesn't take damage or he takes way, way less damage. And so you're able to survive things that would have killed the other characters. There's like a tiny time slowdown, although honestly that could just be like because the screen like goes red and there's like some effects that get added, so it might just be like my perception based on those changes. But either time like slows down a tiny bit, or it doesn't slow down and it's just like the effects that happen. And then Michael has the shittiest power, which on paper it sounds like I think it should be the best one, but in practice the way that it works, it is either broken or bugged or something. He also slows down time. He slows down time a lot, and is able to shoot with more precision and do a lot more damage in doing so. So you can fire like rapid fire machine guns or SMGs or things like that extremely accurately, making the most out of your ammunition. And so like it seems kind of like almost like Matrixy in the way that it is supposed to work. But I don't know if it's bugged or glitched or if it only actually really works with certain weapons. But like a significant portion of the time I found I would activate the power and go to shoot people and my weapon just wouldn't fire.
See, I never had that. So
I had that happen a lot. Like handguns, it happened all the time with handguns, and it would happen probably 50% of the time with anything that wasn't an SMG or like a heavy, sort of mounted weapon on a vehicle, or like some kind of special bespoke weapon. So you did not have that. That was just a me thing.
Yeah, I think that's just the you thing.
I have no idea what caused it. I tried Googling it. I did not get a result within like a few minutes. I said, fuck it. I just won't use the power all that much. That's their superpowers.
Yeah, and at least for Franklin, once you use it enough and get a special meter, all the characters have like essentially a different stats that they can level up. Very GTA San Andreas-esque. If you get Franklin's special meter up and go to a race, you might as well just win, give an instant win because it just lasts forever.
Yeah, that's and to like mention stats, like yes, they do have stats. The stats,
yeah, they start with very different stats, but over time they basically all essentially max out.
Yep.
Franklin, I think, starts with the most stamina and the best swimming, basically the best all-around physical, while Trevor's best with flying and guns, and Michael is sort of in between the two, with the worst. Well, Trevor's the worst stamina overall to start with.
Yeah. I think Michael has got like bonus, like the highest starting stealth. But yeah, he's kind of between the two in terms of firearms and all vehicles except for piloting. Well, I mean, Michael's in between on piloting, but Trevor's highest is piloting. Like that's his thing. He was a pilot. And you learned about Trevor's backstory, like he was a pilot for the Canadian Air Force before they kicked him out once they did a psych eval on him.
Can't imagine why.
Right. I don't know. Like there are so many little things in the game, pros and cons. Although I think I found more small annoyances. Like for example, flying. God,
they really
hate
do
this.
a lot of it.
Flying sucks. Even with Trevor, who has the highest starting piloting stat, and pretty quickly you can max it out, you still have to deal with what the game calls its turbulence mechanic. Every 30 seconds to a minute, your aircraft will shake. If you're using a controller, it will vibrate as if you are being shot or something. And the craft itself will shake and very slightly alter its course. And that's with like max piloting. If you have like, if Franklin gets in a plane and starts flying, it's every 15 to 20 seconds it's doing this. And the amount that it alters your course that you're flying in is much greater. And it just makes flying planes miserable. Helicopters don't suffer from this. They instead like have like a sway kind of back and forth, which is not that big of an issue. So flying helicopters is still fine, but flying aircraft is miserable. And like I looked into this, like there's no way to turn it off. There are a bunch of people that made mods that disabled it because people complain about it so much. But then for the remastered version of the game that just released, that both of us were playing on, like it just released like a month or two ago, none of the mods work for it. I mean, they might by this point, but I basically just avoided flying as much as I could. Like, hated that. Annoying as shit. I actually found Chop to be really annoying. Anytime
didn't use them that much.
I didn't either, because I find him annoying. Anytime the game like drops Chop in with you, there's a couple of missions where Chop is with Franklin, and every once in a while, like randomly, whenever you switch to Franklin, his thing is he'll be playing with Chop somewhere away from his home.
Yeah, which that's one thing we didn't really talk about, is that outside of story missions, you can freely swap between the three characters, and you'll get like a vignette that plays whenever you go to them. Like sometimes Franklin might be stuck in traffic, or Michael is drunk off his ass because his life sucks.
Yeah, he's depressed.
Trevor's doing something wacky because he's the wacky one.
Yeah. God, I fucking hate Trevor. Like, I know we've already talked about how much Trevor sucks, but like I really fucking hate Trevor. I try to avoid using Trevor as much as possible, or if it's like, okay, I'm going to do some like Trevor side story stuff, so let me swap to him and I'm going to just be with him for an entire play session. Dropping in on Trevor, whatever he's doing, sucks. I found, like, these are randomized as far as I know. I found about 50% of the time when I dropped into Trevor, he was actively doing something criminal that meant that I had to run away from the cops before I could actually do what I wanted to do. And sometimes that meant that it was going to be like 10 or 15 minutes to escape from the cops, depending on what thing it was that he was doing and how high his starting wanted level was.
Yeah, which I found getting away from the cops, at least in the early 1-2 stars, not that bad.
No, that's not that difficult.
They changed it from GTA 4, where it's more like a proper stealth mechanic now.
Yes.
Because in GTA 4, it was basically get outside of the wanted area while being unobserved, and you were scot free. Now, it's basically you break line of sight at any point.
Yes, and then you have to stay out of line of sight long enough for them to stop caring about you.
Yeah, and you could also get out of the vehicle, swap vehicles, to help encourage them not catching on to you.
Yeah,
Which
but
is interesting, and that's one of the big praises I have for the game, is that it does make it where it feels a little bit more realistic. Where although the cops sometimes cheat.
Oh yes,
especially if you start going over land away from roads where they could spawn. I noticed that they'll suddenly just start dropping cops wherever, right?
Yep. But the police like chase mechanics was something that I was also going to praise after I bitched about Trevor. But like I said, the problem is that sometimes when you drop in on Trevor, he is doing something that puts you at a massive disadvantage to get away from the cops. Like there's one scene where he was like chasing after a guy in his truck, and the cops were also chasing after you. And if you follow the guy, because I just did the first time that this happened to me, because I didn't know, you're in not the canal that runs to the city, but like a similar like kind of a riverbed. Well, if you follow the guy to the end, and your truck crashes, like goes over a jump and crashes into the lake. Well, now you're swimming in a lake with the cops chasing you, and he had a 3-star wanted level, so there was a helicopter, and so your truck is in the lake. You have to get out. You have to run to the road, get a car, or steal a cop car. Like it just. Then there's other times where it's like he's driving down the highway and two cops are chasing him, and your wanted level's like 1 star or 2 stars. It's like, okay, I can get away from this easy. So, but like because of shit like that, I would just like avoid Trevor, swapping to Trevor, or only going to use Trevor when I knew I was going to be on Trevor for a while.
Well, I never really used Trevor a lot. I never got those instances where I got that. The worst I got from Trevor was one time he was drunk on the top of a random building, and I couldn't figure out how he got up there, and 2, how to get down without just trying to jump across a bunch of buildings.
Yeah. I guess probably if you're playing Grand Theft Auto 5, like this kind of thing, you're going to be aware of it, but Trevor does several things throughout the course of the main story that are potentially disturbing to a player. Trevor, there's an active torture scene where you are playing Trevor torturing someone.
I didn't find as shocking as the media kind of sold it as.
No, I don't think it is.
I think it's pretty mild, but maybe it's just the fact that I just didn't give a fuck about Trevor. I didn't feel connected to him,
I think that's a your mileage may vary thing.
Yeah.
I think that like it's worth like noting, like there's an active torture scene where you are doing the torture as a character in this game. Like I don't think it's that bad in terms of like where they could have gone with it, but I do think it's something that like someone who's a more sensitive person might really struggle with that. And then there are several times I say several, a couple times where like Trevor is eating human flesh, and it's like pointed out, and he's like confirms that it is human that he's eating, and that's something that could be really gross to people. Everything Trevor does is gross, but like those are 2 things that like I think for some people like might cross the line, and it's worth mentioning that Trevor does those things. But yeah, Trevor sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of some other things that I liked as well to praise, so I'm not bitching so much. I promise I like GTA 5 decently. It's not like I don't think it's amazing. I don't think it's.
I did like the random events that popped up. I just wish that there were more of them.
Yeah.
Because after playing for a bit, basically I felt like I ran out of them until I unlock the next batch by doing enough story missions.
The freaks thing are pretty fun. Most of those were pretty good. I don't like the guy who he's like a skydiver that you run into as Franklin, and he takes on these weird skydiving adventures.
I don't think I ran into him.
Okay.
I
But
did get the photographer.
the photographer was a lot of fun. Big God. The weed guy is interesting. I like how Franklin interacts with him. I don't, because like he gets each of the characters to smoke some of his homegrown weed, and Michael and Trevor have like crazy trips, and Franklin was like, "Yo, dog, this shit's kind of dry." But anyways, yeah, I like the weed guy. He's a lot of fun.
And that's also the only time that you get rampages is as Trevor like that. He has a few of those.
Yeah.
Where he's fighting clowns.
Yes. Doesn't like clowns, I guess. I don't like clowns either, so. Except for my 10 gay clown dads. Long time callback. Long time. Playing the long game on that one.
Well, how does that make you feel about the therapist?
I like the therapist. He's
not very professional.
He's shitty, but there is an era of therapy where that was like how therapists were, you know, like in the 80s and in the 90s, if you were like a classic sort of Freudian psychotherapist, like that's how you were. The shitty part, like the shittiest part of that is him being like with like the money, like, oh, I'm going to charge him more for phone sessions. Actually, I'm going to charge him more for in-person sessions because that doesn't seem fair to charge him more for phone sessions. Like, but the way that he talks to Michael and the therapy advice that he quote unquote gives is very like 80s and 90s Freudian-esque, like accurate, which I like. Like, I don't think that's something that anybody else is going to get if you're not like in the business.
That's why I was excited to hear what you thought.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just like that little attention to detail. And every time how he's like, how are you doing with your sexual thoughts, Michael? How are you doing with your sexual proclivities? Are you acting out? He's like, no, man, I'm good. Like, that's like a core tenet of Freudian psychotherapy. It's like sexual, like sexually acting out, sexual activity as a way to like funnel your sort of anxieties or your issues with, and that whole thing of like, you know, where Michael multiple times is like, you know, I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. I feel hopeless, like doing this therapy. Like it feels like a waste of time. And like, honestly, like he's not helping him as a therapist. Like he's not doing anything, but he's like, no, the hopelessness is when, you know, you're about to have a breakthrough. And then when Michael does feel like he's starting to make some progress, the therapist is like, okay, well, that's all the time we've got for this week. We'll have to get to that next time. Like, all of that is extremely period accurate to 80s and 90s Freudian psychotherapists. Like, I was really impressed. Somebody did their homework. And, you know, to someone who doesn't know, it just seems like a shitty, stereotypical bad therapist. But, like, you know, stereotypes come often from a place of truth, and they just get, like, blown out of proportion in some way or another, you know? But no, he's good, but I mean, he's bad. He's a bad therapist, but like he's good for the character that he's supposed to be. I did steal his Porsche or whatever.
Yeah, multiple times.
Oh yeah, every time I went to his office, I stole his car. I mean, it's not a Porsche. They don't have Porsches, and they don't have real car brands in Grand Theft Auto. But you know, it's supposed to be a Porsche.
Trying to think of anything else. I mean. It just feels like it's it doesn't hold up to the legacy of GTA. You know what I mean? It might just be because we didn't play online and get on that treadmill, right? Like that
fuck
treadmill.
That. I have played Grand Theft Auto Online in the past just to check it out, and it's awful. It was awful. I can't imagine it's any better now. It was it's just a huge grief fest and a massive grind fest. You know, they're just weirdly, there's just nothing to do if you don't want to do random lobby like whatever kind of games. Because there were lobbies you could join that would be like, I mean, being basically they were mini games, like team deathmatch or mini games that were like Grand Theft Auto flavored, and those were like neat. I remember them being kind of fun to check out. But then after sort of a couple hours of gameplay in one afternoon, I was like, okay, well, I don't want to do this anymore. Because if you try to do the missions, there are missions that you can do on your own or with friends, but you're in that persistent play area with all of these other people who are roaming around with, infinite money and are bored out of their minds and just want to grief you. So it sucks. The response, I don't know if this is better or not. Like the response time for the server and actually getting to play. Like in the past, I would start the multiplayer and then get up and go walk away and go to the bathroom and get a drink and maybe do something. Sometimes it would take 10 minutes to be able to get online.
Didn't they fix that, at least in the base version?
Supposedly, I don't know.
Because remember we did a story about that ages ago about a hacker figuring out a way to essentially load the game faster because of the way it was loading assets in.
Yeah. I don't remember. Possibly, but I don't remember that. And I didn't try it out, so I don't know if it's faster. I mean, my hardware is a lot faster.
Well, I think they eventually rolled it out as essentially an official patch.
Well, that's good if they did. My hardware is a lot better this time than when I played it before. It ran beautifully. I didn't have any issues, no crashes, smooth.
Well, the enhanced version actually runs better in it anyway, so.
Oh, well, nice. But yeah, a smooth 180 FPS, max graphics settings. I have ray tracing on. Looks good. Plays well.
I think I was playing on medium settings, just because I was mostly playing on the Steam Deck. Because it's more comfortable after work just to crash there,
Yeah. So, overall, Grand Theft Auto 5 for me is like either a B- or a B. I don't think it's a C. I think it gets more...
I agree with a B-, at least for me.
Yeah. I think overall it gets enough right in sort of like playtime enjoyment. Like, I bitched about a lot of stuff. I got annoyed about a lot of things. But most of the time, I was having a good time playing. There was enough, fun characterization. I got enough time with Lamar. I got enough time sort of having fun doing the random Grand Theft Auto things.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the story missions enough. I found, enough of the humor, funny and relatable that it, was enjoyable. So I do think it like gets out of like average territory. I think Grand Theft Auto 5 is a game that is, what's the right word?
I think it was trying to get back to its roots. I think, like I mentioned before, they view GTA 4 as an experiment that didn't go quite right. Where they tried to go a little bit too gritty, a little bit too serious.
Yeah.
And GTA 5 was basically trying to be a readjustment and a reconnecting to the kind of the roots of the 3D GTAs. Partially where they actively go out of their way to kill the protagonist of one of the DLCs from GTA 4 that was one of the more serious stories,
Yeah.
I do not think that was a fluke of they chose to kill Johnny. I think that was Rockstar saying, we're trying to be wacky again. And it didn't land, and I think partially because they wanted to do 3 protagonists. If they trimmed it down, if they had a more streamlined story, but the problem is, the way they had the story now, I don't think you could easily take away any of the protagonists and still have things make sense, because Trevor's there to fuck things up. Franklin is your everyman getting pulled in. Maybe you could get rid of Franklin and have Michael, doing his thing and getting caught into the whirlwind of Trevor again. And have it, that would be the only way I could see it make sense. But Franklin is honestly the most likable to me. He's the one that's just trying to desperately, get things going.
I think that you could cut Franklin or Trevor. I do think you could cut Trevor. Based on how the story's structured, I don't think it works without Michael. You could cut Michael, but you'd have to redo everything. I think if you cut Franklin, then you get the Michael-Trevor dynamic that works as a story. If you cut Trevor, there's a little bit more reworking that needs to be done with sort of
you have the old thief teaching the new,
Yes, absolutely.
You'll have a patching of the torch story.
Yep. And you'd have to do a little bit to deal with the Trevor piece and how that him not being there affects things. But yeah, either you get the passing of the torch or you get the resolution of the drama between, the two old companions, instead of trying to do both and more. And
I think it would also, if you could also still have Trevor as part of the story, but make him not playable, make him an NPC that pops up as a quest giver or a mission giver,
Yeah.
Have him be in the cutscenes.
Yeah, that also could work. I think I figured out how to say what I wanted to say earlier when I was talking about my grade. I think Grand Theft Auto 5 is a game that is overhyped by people who don't know better. And I think that's the most I don't want to sound like an asshole, but that's very much maybe I'm old, being a little pretentious about this kind of thing. Because Grand Theft Auto 5 is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, there's stuff wrong with it, but broad strokes, there's nothing wrong with it. It is a fine game, but it is nowhere near as good as people make it out to be, because I think that it captured in that early live service games, Grand Theft Auto 5 is a live service title on the multiplayer function or on the multiplayer side. And so it's beloved by people who don't know better because they're too young or too inexperienced with gaming or both to recognize what was lost along the way. Grand Theft Auto 5
sort of the inshitification of GTA.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. As a single player game, it's fine, but it's not amazing. It's not great. It's good, but so much other stuff has gone on around it that it's just gotten blown out of proportion for people. Maybe I'm old.
I'm hesitating to say no, that don't know better, because that feels a little bit too gatekeepy to me. What I'm thinking is more they don't have the comparison. I agree that they don't have the comparison, but I don't want to word it in such a way that it feels like I'm gatekeeping, saying you think this is good because you haven't played this because you're too young. Because going back to Vice City, and I'm going to pick on Vice City specifically because I know that's your favorite of the trilogy.
That's fine.
Hear me out.
Yeah, pick on Vice City.
The gunplay in Vice City, you cannot move and shoot at the same time. That was one of the big innovations for San Andreas, was that you had a lot more freedom of movement in gunplay.
Yeah.
And for someone to go back to that, it's jarring because all the gunplay is revolving around this idea that the player can never move and shoot. So, and somebody will go back to that and say, well, why do you think this is better? It's the chicken and egg problem where one is not better than the other because we also grew up with this,
Yeah.
I'm not going to give GTA 7 or GTA 7. We'll get there, 2025 or 2500, I should say.
I was gonna
Right?
say it's 2025 right now, sir, and GTA 6 was pushed back to 2026. So
I'm not going to give GTA 5 a better score because of that, but I also understand that the gentrification is there. I mean, I'm seeing it in multiple series that I've played over the years. I mean, the Elder Scrolls, in my eyes, has gone downhill over the last several installments just because they keep removing things and streamlining things.
I agree.
However, to other people, because they're streamlining things, it's getting better because you don't have to sit and read all the quest text and like Morrowind to figure out what's going on. And because everything's fully voiced now, you don't have like a mini novel to go through for each NPC.
Yeah.
So I think it's different structure for different folks. I don't want to gatekeep and say, well, the kids are wrong. For me, it's a worse time.
I have, I have 2 points. Two. I don't know if they're rebuttals, but I have 2 responses to that. The first one, I do think GTA 5 mechanically is the best one in the series so far. But in contrast, I think it is maybe not necessarily the weakest from other gameplay or from other storytelling and sort of gameplay perspectives, like the pacing and other things that we talked about. But I definitely think it's a step back. And depending on what people value, like, fair enough, I suppose, on sort of a preference thing. And I have gotten to a point, and I'm not sure exactly when I crossed this line, but everything doesn't have to be for everybody. And like with Elder Scrolls, for example, Elder Scrolls has gotten worse because they have streamlined it and made it, in one sense of the word, more accessible to like normies. And like, that's fine. Like, people love Skyrim. That's cool. But also, like, it's okay to want a Morrowind or a Daggerfall, And
then there was that they made the game dumber.
Yeah. Then there was a period where you couldn't get a Morrowind or a Daggerfall, but there has been a resurgence of people who have, who agree with us, that have said, like, no, I do want more complex games, and those have started to pop up in like indie or AA spaces. Baldur's Gate 3, not a perfect one, apples to apples comparison, but like, as a game, it's extremely deep and complex and long and has like very complex mechanics and doesn't shy away from that kind of stuff. Like, those are games, and like, it was extremely successful. Like, is an audience for that. And so, I wish that game developers would, like, more or maybe bigger game developers would recognize that and do something with it. But instead, they focus on, well, what can we make that's the biggest and the flashiest and sell to the most people? Because that makes the shareholders the most happy. So yes, those are my 2 points. I don't know if they're necessarily rebuttals, but just like kind of replies to what you said.
Yeah, I do wish that we would see the resurgence of the GTA clone, because here's a couple that I completely forgot about: the True Crime series.
Oh yeah,
Mafia, the first couple of Mafia games, or actually the Mafia series, could be considered one.
Yeah, there's 3 Mafia games, right?
Yeah, there's a Godfather game that was essentially GTA. There was a Scarface game. The Simpsons did one. The Simpsons did it.
Wasn't it The Simpsons Hit and Run?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit more closed off, but the same idea. But yeah, there's just nothing coming up that I could see that is GTA like. And maybe eventually, if GTA 6 continues this trend, maybe we'll see something. Sort of like how City Skylines has dropped the ball, and now we're seeing the resurgence of like the Village builder with Manor Lords and a few others.
Yeah,
Manor Lords. You could argue RimWorld along with Dwarf Fortress, which I know Dwarf Fortress is a very old game to say that for, but it getting more popular via the Steam release can make the argument. Seeing Power World take on Pokemon, sorta, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's been a bunch of Pokemon clones, though. Cassette Beasts and Monster Academy? Like, we've played a couple of them that were...
Yeah, I'm actually playing one that I still need to talk about. Pokemon Infinite Fusion. It's a wild one.
Yeah.
But
so...
Yeah, I
think
the market is prime for a new GTA clone. And we just need to see it at this point. But the thing is, that is a huge undertaking.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, Crackdown. That's one that died.
I forgot about Crackdown.
Yeah. I guess there's more of them than I thought of, but so many of them have failed. GTA is the one that keeps going, but so many of them have failed. It's the whole thing. Like I everybody tries to make a series out of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And on the one hand, yeah, sure, I'd love a series out of all my favorite things, but also you can make something good and then just let people enjoy it and make some money off of it and then go try to make something else that's good. I don't know. Everything has to be a franchise. Everything has to be a universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fucking Marvel.
God, we're old. Two old men just complaining about bullshit.
Well, if we ever want to drop the video game aspect, it's what we could call it, right?
Two old men bitch about bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So speaking of franchises and universes and the never-ending game series.
And shitification.
Our next Game Club game is going to be Civilization 6.
Yeah, Civilization 7's out, which means that I've finally bought Civilization 6. Because that's the way I work.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. When they announced Civilization 7, I just waited for them to do the big sale for Civ 6, and there it was.
Yeah. We're going to have, I think, lots to say about Civ 6, too.
Yeah.
Lots of complaints about the fucking, game stability. Network, whatever. We had a lot of problems trying to play together. But we also have different feelings about the game, I think. But we'll save that stuff for the next time we do a game club to talk about that.
See you guys in August.
Right. So let's move on to the only news topic we've got on for tonight, because we knew GTA 5 was going to be a really long conversation. But from our submissions and suggestions box, we have something submitted from Cube, which is Online Piracy's Great Comeback. Now, this is a link to a YouTube video that was about 15 minutes long or so by the YouTube channel How Money Works. Never heard of them before, but they talk about online piracy and kind of I don't know if I would say rise and fall. They talk about some history of piracy, relatively recent history, in the video, and then talk about the current environment. While the piracy focuses on film, or movies and TV, streaming services, I do think certain aspects of this are applicable to video games as well. But yeah, I don't know. Where do you want to start with this one?
The first half of the video, or the first third, right before the sponsor hit, highlights the classic argument of the enshittification of streaming, where it used to be you could have one or two services and you're pretty much set for whatever you wanted to watch, and then the companies decided, oh well, we don't want to give up that revenue stream to Netflix. Let's make our own. And let's block off this movie and block off this TV series. Let's make it where only the new season of this show is coming out. Let's remove the first few seasons from Netflix and put them on our service, but leave the later ones there, And just have fragmented things to such a degree that the only way to watch what you wanted to remotely watch is to either have a VPN and travel in massive sarcasm quotes to where different places have different content of licensing on their different streaming sites, or you're already halfway to the piracy. You may as well use your VPN and just fucking download the thing. But that's not the entire thing, because the video also highlights this isn't really a problem for music, partly because music is mostly available to everywhere on whatever streaming service you have. You'll have occasionally a band that'll have a song that's exclusive somewhere, or might release an album somewhere or before other places. But for the most part, whatever streaming service you have, it's pretty good. But the music industry is also different, where the main revenue actually isn't the music. For the artist, the main revenue is going out and touring, going out and doing appearances, merchandising.
Merch sales.
So the music, in a way, is not the product. Or at least not the product that they care about. So
kind of like gas stations. Like gas stations make almost all of their revenue from not gas, but gas is what draws people in to the store.
Or ironically enough, movie theaters.
Yeah.
So they don't care about the little bit of piracy, because they'll just, ignore it, because where the big revenue stream for them is or at least for the artists. I mean, the record companies are still going to go after them because, right? Yeah. And where the artists really care about is, getting butts in seats at the concerts. Well, movies have the problem where they really can't do that, at least not yet. They're trying to pivot to that, where they have the expanded universes. Well, they'll have the merchandising. And yes, I purposely use that phrasing because Spaceballs 2 is becoming a thing now. Where they'll use the movie as essentially bait to pull people into a particular streaming service. But the problem is that people that go to a streaming service for a particular movie are only going to be there for a short time, and then they're going to leave. So,
Yeah.
The movie industry is in trouble because their product is so damn expensive that the market just can't support it. And why are we talking about this on a gaming podcast? Well, because it's a very strong parallel to the gaming industry. We're seeing games suddenly in the last year go from a $60 price point as, that's the typical full price game. We're seeing 80 and some companies talking about $90.
Yeah.
It's just becoming unrealistic.
Yeah.
And part of that is because it's too goddamn expensive to make the video games, because they are in this constant round of firing and hiring.
It is, it was capitalism all along. Even within the context of, capitalist societies and our markets as they exist, we've talked about this time and time again. James Stephanie Sterling talks about this, it's like they can't just take some money. They have to have all of the money all of the time. And so these companies chase their share, the most money they can, their share prices, their investor whatevers. And so, yes, they hire and fire people like crazy to try to, keep those costs as low as possible. But then you wind up with ballooning costs in the long run because you have teams that are not cohesive units that have been working together for a long time. So you have errors and communication problems and other issues that come up with a rotating labor force like that. You have
the ballooning salary of the CEOs.
The ballooning salary of the CEOs. You have focus on things that while at one point may have sold games, at this point don't, but cost so much money being graphical fidelity. You have focus on chasing whatever the um the gimmick of the week is, or the gimmick of the year, live service games. I mean, it's been
Oh,
MMOs and then live services and then survival zombie and whatever, there's so many of these things, looter shooters, fucking hero shooters, fucking MOBAs, fucking um uh shit. No, not MOBAs.
MOBAs was one as well.
Yes, but that's not what I was thinking of.
But also, so many of these are
Battle
massive
Royale.
money sinks.
Yes,
Because Battle Royale, you had to have a fucking massive user base to power it. Same with live services. Same with MMOs. Same with MOBAs.
And so they
all these are very expensive. And the reason why they go after them is because they view, League of Legends as this massive thing, and they make how much money? Well, why aren't we making that much money with our own thing? What do you mean we don't have something in that that market? Well, we need to get something in that market.
Yeah.
Never mind the fact that it's not really feasible to jump into the MOBA market because, while you will get new players, you're not going to get people really leaving League of Legends. You're not going to get people leaving Dota. And you're only going to get, essentially scraps.
Yeah.
But never mind that. We got to get all the money.
Yes. So, all of that, right, in both the video games and as pointed out in the video, the film industry, movies, TV, streaming services, you wind up with this confluence of factors which makes piracy more likely. Like the old adage, I think, is true for a lot of people. I don't know if it's the majority of people who pirate. I don't know. Maybe somebody somewhere has done some kind of study, collected the data. I do think the old adage is true to a point. Like I personally will buy something if I can find it, but if I can't find it, or if it's not easy to buy, or if it's, scammy or scummy or weird, I pirate shit. I pirate a lot of tabletop RPG books. Old books are extremely difficult to find for older systems or older
you'll
source
jump
material.
on it whatever there's a humble bundle or something.
Anytime there's anytime you say hey, here's a humble bundle for this this tabletop stuff, BattleTech stuff, or some D&D stuff, whatever, anytime that stuff comes around.
Tabletop RPG was the last one I sent you.
Yeah, but I jump on that shit and I buy it when it comes up because it's really hard to find. So whenever I can't find it, I'll go pirate it. And I don't know if that's typical, or if that's just me, and a certain subset of people, but I will also do that for movies or shows or video games if I really want them and I can't find them anywhere, or the people who are trying to sell them, it's a gray market kind of thing, or just really bad, scummy situations, but I buy games on Steam all the time when they're on sale. I buy games on Epic, not all the time, but sometimes when they're on sale. So I think the old adage is partially true, but then you start pushing people when the worse your services get, the more expensive they get, the less that they deliver. And then when they do deliver, the worse that delivery is. I could see that pushing people, at least a group of people, to choosing piracy when other economic factors have not changed. Things are about to get a whole lot worse in the United States for a lot of people. And they're going to have to start making decisions that they haven't had to make before, because they had the bare social safety net that America did have was enough for them. And so I think we're going to see even more piracy because people want to and need to have time and space to unwind and decompress and really, process something that's going on, and they can't afford to buy something. So of course they'll steal it. And I think I don't know. We'll see how this plays out, right? Like young people have grown up with technology in their hands, smartphones, tablets, easy access to computers 24/7, 365. That doesn't necessarily mean like cars, for example, is a big one that I hear in comparison to this all the time. Like not everybody, but cars are everywhere in the United States. But like, how many people don't know how to work on their cars or don't take the time to learn how to work on their cars? But
I just don't
economic,
have the space.
sure, but like economic situations push people into learning that kind of stuff. And maybe, either you specifically or sort of the royal you, like maybe you as a person don't know how to, tear down your engine, but you learn how to do basic stuff like change some spark plugs, change your oil, change your brakes. Like the equivalent to that for computing, like, maybe you don't know how to go on, PC part picker and assemble a PC, but you can watch a YouTube guide on like how to use, uTorrent and, the Pirate Bay or something like that. And so we'll see how this plays out, but I think we'll have an increased instances of piracy in the United States across all media types.
Especially since, a big sponsor on YouTube is like NordVPN and all these other VPN services. I'm using Nord because that was what popped up in the video.
Yeah.
And they already sell themselves as a YouTube or a Netflix unlocker for regional content.
Yep.
Well, it's not going to take long for somebody to realize, wait a minute, if they're hiding me there, I could just steal it.
Yep. I don't think piracy is going to become so rampant that it's going to be quote unquote problematic for these companies' bottom lines. I don't know how much piracy would have to go on for that to truly happen, right? I imagine it would need to be a decent percentage chunk, somewhere between 10 and 25% piracy rates across all content types for it to be hugely detrimental. But even if it only gets to 3 or 4 or 5%, like that's still enough that I think they would do something, say something, do something. And that doesn't seem so far-fetched to me. I mean, how many things come out all the time? How many people exist that engage with those things? Just in the United States, there's 330-ish million people. If you get 5% of the population of America actively engaging in piracy because they can't afford to get the content that they want, or the process to do so is so convoluted that it's just easier. Like, I mean, video games are the example for this. It's like, sure, like the base price of a video game is $60 or $70 or $80 or whatever. But, all major AAA games at this point have got 3 or 4 or 5 versions of the game. And it's like, well, fuck, like, which one do I get? So it might just be easier to be like, you know what, I'll just pirate the basic one as soon as somebody like releases a cracked version. So, but even if you get 5% of the U.S. consumers to do piracy, I mean, it wouldn't be the full 330 million. Maybe we cut that in half, 160 million. That's 8 million people. That's 8 million, subscribers or purchasers that suddenly are not spending their money on something because they can't, or the process of doing so is so convoluted or arduous that it's just easier for them to pirate than to navigate that miasma. Like 8 million users on something, is a shitload of people. It's a massive like customer base that industries pop up around to try to get, percentages of those 8 million people. So I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah. I'm hoping that all the fear of the economic collapse coming up is unwarranted, or overblown. But I have little faith. I think things are going to be far worse than what's expected, and things look dire already.
Yeah. I don't.
So what a quick late breaking news.
Sure.
This is going to be quick. In the wait, that was still alive files. Update on Anthem.
Oh yeah, I knew Anthem was still running.
Not for long. They're sunsetting the servers on January 12th, 2026.
Oh, well.
Which it's kind of fitting. And I think the reason why we're seeing this announcement now is that the Stop Killing Games initiative passed a million threshold in the EU.
Oh, good. So that guarantees them to the EU to look at it.
Yeah, so I think it's EA saying, "Oh shit, this is actually becoming a thing. We need to shut this down now before it costs us more."
Yeah.
So nothing of great value, but the thing is that people still bought the game. People still own this game. It's going to go off of EA Play in August. So, yeah, people are going to lose access to a game that they may want to try out.
Yeah,
because I know that they did work on it for a bit.
I'm one of those people. I bought the game and I played it. I talked about it on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it, but also I just wanted to play through it, and I did, and then I was done with it.
Yeah, but it's definitely not going to get that revival that No Man's Sky had, huh?
Yeah, well, almost no games get the revival like No Man's Sky did.
Mm-hmm. Cyberpunk.
I mean, I didn't say none. I just said almost none.
Yeah, true. But I threw that into the news sources so you could look at it. But they're kind of cheeky about it too. How long will I have to play to Anthem? The game servers will will be available until January 12th, 2026, at which time the game will no longer be playable. Why can't I play Anthem in offline mode? Anthem was designed to be online-only title. Once servers go offline, the game will no longer be playable. That doesn't answer it,
Yeah.
The answer is fuck you, that's why. Can I still install Anthem if I'd previously purchased the game? This one's out to you. Yes, if you previously purchased Anthem, you rube, the game will still be downloadable from a digital library and playable until January 12th, 2026. Why can I no longer purchase Anthem or in-game currency? Over the course of the next 180 plus days, Anthem will still be playable online, and you can use the last of your in-game premium currency, which that's actually news to me, but somebody bought that, but right.
Yeah.
As we prepare to sunset the game's live services, we'll still be able to use my in-game currency. Yes, you could use it until the server shut down. Will the game stay on EA Play? Anthem will be removed on August 15th, 2025. And has anyone else in BioWare been affected by these changes? No sunsetting of Anthem has not led to layoffs. I love that they had to put that there because, my God, the game industry has been a wasteland of layoffs.
Yeah. I may go back and play it before it's sunsetted, but I wouldn't get my hopes up too high on it.
Yeah, it's just...
I liked the story. I enjoyed the experience. I knew what I was getting into when I bought it, and it's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it looks like also there's some scuttlebutt over at Subnautica, but we can save that for next week if you want.
Yeah.
Because it's getting quite late, but I figured that would be very quick. And I'm actually surprised Anthem's servers were still up and running.
Yeah, I knew they were.
I know that they went into maintenance mode for quite a while, but yeah, and they always promised that they were going to fix it. Well, guess not.
Yep. So, hey Rach, how can people get in touch with us if they want to send us stuff?
Well, if you wish to send us stuff, that would be P.O. Oh wait, I'm joking. You do so by probably the most effective way would hop on the Discord, which you can find the link to that at the top of VGLpodcast.podbean.com, or you can email us VGLpodcast@gmail.com, Or contact us directly on Steam because I don't think we check social media at all these days.
Nope. Fuck social media.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of a wasteland.
Even the better social medias, I'm just like I can't. I just can't with my brain.
Sort of like Weasel News, right? I just
Yeah.
can't. As I'm just hearing Hot Kiss blasting in the background.
Yeah. All right.
Uh,
I guess take us home, Rage.
Yeah, as I try to find the right tab because right. Once again, vglpodcast.gmail.com with your hilarious voicemails, game related topics, or drop by the Discord, which you can find a link to that over at VGLpodcast.podbean.com. Any of you to spread the love, you find us on your podcatcher of choice. At least we think. I mean, it's been a while since we actually checked that. That might be some homework for you, Jared.
Sure. I'll check it out.
If you wish to help pay for this absolute madness, because the cost of our phone sessions have just risen again, you can find out more about that over at patreon.com/VGLpodcast. Our intro down to our music is on the ground by Ken McLeod. You can find his work over at computech.com. And
as always, as this lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
See ya.
Bye-bye.